Hello, darling. Welcome to your reading. A little bit different scenery here. I've actually switched rooms in my house, so a little bit of commotion, a little bit of change. You know how that goes. I have just been meditating here on kind of you and your essence as I've been shuffling the cards and really asking Spirit what should come through for you. And utilizing the Wildwood Tarot deck today. I'll show you what that looks like. I don't know if we used this deck last time, but I've been especially drawn to it during this season. It is more earth-based spirituality, based around the Year of the Wheel, which is pagan tradition. And it's just very... It's a complex deck, and I like that because I find that I can get more complex readings out of it. And I occasionally will read from the book, so you might find that I'll do that during your reading here. But I also just find that I can get a lot from the cards themselves, and a lot comes to me through that imagery. Sorry, I just opened my window, clear out some of the sage smoke from saging the area, and I like to bathe the cards in sage smoke as well, and just kind of clear them out, prepare them for the next person. But there's apparently like giant trucks going by in the street. Anyway, so yeah, as always, I recommend having a journal and a pen handy, and writing down what strikes you in the reading. You've probably noticed you can go back and re-watch these videos, which is why I like to provide them in this format. And you can you can make more notes. I have heard that people have had different things come to them in successive readings. So as you interact with the reading again and again, you might find that you're filling up different pages with different kinds of notes. And I think it's interesting. It's a bit like putting a puzzle together, making those notes. And I even suggest, even if it's like song lyrics, an image, a smell, a memory, anything that comes to mind, just to jot it down. The great thing is you can hit pause on this video, so make use of that function. And then, you know, after you've made all your notes, and it's kind of cool to then like give yourself some space, clear it out, and then come back to it with fresh eyes and see how all the pieces come together. See what kind of image comes to you. The thing for me about tarot is that I never get like, I get some pretty like, sometimes I will get very clear like messages for people. A lot of times what I'm getting are impressions, like sensations, feelings, and I'm just trying to put those things into words so that I can communicate them to my listeners. So a lot of times what I find is it's really good for you to be making your own notes, so that it's really about you putting the pieces of the puzzle together for yourself and allowing Spirit to help you with that process. So all that said, we're going to go here. Okay. so interesting because the reading I just did right before this, the whole, I'm going to show you this. Here's your spread. Celtic Cross. More traditional spread here. Ooh, try to get all the, doesn't want to get that top card in. There we go. That line on the right side are all vessels, and it's just funny because the last reading I did, they were all vessels as well, and vessels correspond with emotions, like water. The symbolism of water within any tarot tradition is of like the emotional, kind of that underbelly, like emotional spiritual realm. Not so much spiritual, because a lot of that is like in wands. That's traditional with wands in the traditional tarot. In this, it's bows. So it's just really interesting that anyway, I just find it funny that emotions, what that is saying is that being in touch with and kind to your emotions is going to go a long way. I'm gonna shut my door real quick. It's going to be really important for you in the process that you're in, and a lot of that is, I mean, I don't know about you, but that really, it stirs some anxiety in me. Like, I don't like feeling my feelings. But a lot of it, the process is befriending your feelings. So being able to, almost like with a child, say, I understand, you're feeling really disappointed, aren't you? You're feeling abandoned, aren't you? You're feeling anxious, you're feeling sad, you're feeling, and then instead of wanting to run from those, it's almost like you're holding them like a baby and just kind of like cradling them. And I'm pointing to my heart chakra here because that's where, like, a lot of times we connect our emotions with our heart chakra. So we'll get to that. Let's start at the closer to the beginning here. So in the center here, we have you in your current present state, which is the Ten of Stones, home. And what strikes me about this card is that it's actually like looking at home through this. So there's a sense of longing for home, wishing for home, standing at a distance and not in a place that's foreign, maybe even a little bit cold and dark, and you're looking out at home. It seems like it's kind of out of reach at this point, like right now. What's cool about this home is that there's a tree growing out of it, and I'll tell you why I think that's really cool in just a minute. Do you see that? Oop, I just keep sticking it. There we go. See the tree growing out of that? It's really cool. Okay. Recent past, we have the Queen of Arrows, which is the swan. Magnificent bird, as we know from the story of the ugly ducklings. Not one that is always recognized until it's in full blossom. It's also the thing that's interesting about the swan, and she's kind of like looking back behind her, like something has been following her, like something, like she can't quite trust her back to the world behind her. So there's two things coming out of that for me. One is like kind of the ugly duckling story where you were always a swan, but you're just now kind of realizing it's there. And at the same time, that dichotomy of not being able to trust your place in this world, that you've been almost like, even though you are this beautiful swan who deserves to be where you are, and you're kind of coming into that, you have the memory of everything that's happened to you, and it's making you a little uneasy. In the In the near future, we have 21 of the major arcana, which is the world tree. This is why I thought it was cool there was a tree growing out of that house, because that tree is kind of a smaller version of this, like a lesser developed version, and it has a little door. So it's almost like the whole tree, the whole house converted into a tree. And it's the world tree, which, if you can tell, it has all four seasons. So it's got spring, summer, fall, winter going on. So the entirety of the Earth's cycle is contained in this tree. It also has a labyrinth in the front. And I'm not sure if you've ever done a prayer labyrinth, if I've mentioned that to you before, but um, what you do is essentially you start at the beginning, and the labyrinth leads you in, and it winds and winds and winds, leads you all the way to the center. And so as you're going in, and this is mostly a Catholic tradition, but I look at it as really a deeply spiritual tradition that spans across humanity. So don't feel like you have to be a certain kind of prayerful person in order to engage this. But what you do is, as you're walking in, you take your problems and you kind of meditate on them, whatever it is you're wanting to let go of. You hold it, okay? Your grief, your confusing joy sometimes, where it's like I'm happy about this but confused as to why, when I'm sad about these other things. It can be heartbreak. I mean, it can be whatever, it can even just be the struggle to hold your emotions, right? And as you wind your way in to the center, you're meditating on that. And then you get to the center, and this is where you let it go. You lay it down, and you take as long in the center as you need to do that. Sometimes there's like a little altar or whatever in the middle, and you can like more tangibly like leave something behind. You can bow, you can go to your knees, you can bow, you can do whatever you need to do. You can, but you ask for the strength to leave it there. And the goal is that you don't leave that center until you do. And then as you wind your way out, you're kind of tending to the parts of you that like left this thing behind, and tending to your wounded spaces and all of that. I usually just spend the entire time walking out crying, because it feels so relieving to be seen and heard. And that's usually how I feel in a prayer labyrinth. I feel really seen and heard. And then to feel like I've let something go that was very heavy. So something to consider. I know in Indianapolis, there's one at the Benedictine Monastery in Beech Grove, and it's open all the time. You can just drive there and walk on it. They also have retreats. Might be something to think about. It's a pretty special place. But you can also Google. There might be other places since I've moved that have prayer labyrinths as well. So overlaying these three cards is the pole star. And this is number 17 in the major arcana. It's in the position where it's meant to serve as a bridge or a barrier. And I feel like this is a bridge. So this longing to be at home. It's also a deeper sense of longing to be at home in the world. Like, not just to have a tangible home, but to have a place within yourself where you really feel like, I belong here. I belong in this world. And this, what I like, what strikes me is this guy here. And he's walking this path through this really dense wood, and unable to see the pole star, which is the guiding star. It's the guiding light. And I think it's important to remember that the guiding light is always there, even if you don't see it, and your soul resonates with it. Okay, so it's almost as if deeper parts of you are connected to it, even though like this part of you, your eyes are not able to see it fully. In the hopes place, we have number 1, the shaman. And this corresponds with the magician in the traditional tarot. It's, you can see here, there's a myriad of tools that the shaman has down here, including fire, but some other things as well. And he has his staff, and he's like, you know, the seer of the forest, and also ultimately a great healer. Shamans are tremendous healers, intuitive, spiritual, emotional healers. They often tend to our spiritual bodies. The magician, which is what it corresponds to in the traditional tarot, also has a variety of tools at his disposal. And so I think there's the hope, this being in the hopes category, what it tells me is that there's a deep desire to be equipped for whatever comes at you in the world. But not just to be equipped, to have full functionality, to have a deep spiritual understanding, and to be confident and calm in that. So almost this like having the knowing then brings confidence and a deep sense of calm, and so that you're not running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Like that's just the phrase that comes to mind. In the fears category, we have the 7 of arrows, which is insecurity. And arrows in this deck correspond with swords in the traditional tarot. They are, they really have to do with, can't ever get my glasses right. They really have to do with words and communication. And so there's this sense of like being allowing words to distort who you are, and that driving a lot of the insecurity that you're experiencing. And so I think at this point in time, it's really important to be very discriminatory about who speaks into your life. And only you're going to know who those people are. I can't tell you. That would defeat my purpose of advising you to be discriminatory, because even this, I think you should be discriminatory about what you take in from your readings. And I know that you're very hungry. I sense that you're very hungry for answers, and it's tempting to want to go to people outside of yourself to find that, but the answers are always going to be inside of you. And when you do open up to outside advice and counsel, weigh it against how it makes you feel, okay? And allow it. The temptation is to think, well, it made me feel like shit, which is on me. That's because I have this, and this wrong with me. And just know that whatever comes your way, if it's true to you, if it's right for you, it is going to be, yes, it will be a mirror to kind of say, hey, this is something you need to see about yourself, but it's going to be in a way that you feel loved and supported. You know, even in the hard things that you have to look at, it's going to be like presented to you in a way that, wow, I really feel seen by being shown that part of myself, instead of, wow, I really feel like shit because someone's throwing stuff up in my face. I find that a lot of times that is born out of shame and guilt and is not authentic to who we are. So just allow yourself to tune into yourself first and say, okay, let me see how that feels. Oh, so and so told me this is what's going on. Let me see how. No, that really doesn't feel like me. That doesn't resonate with me. Psh, gone. It goes out. Or when you do stuff, something come, you go, oh wow, yeah, that's pretty honest. Okay, heart, how can we take care of this? You know, and then you just tune in. You really let your heart decide for you. Okay. So you have some really tremendous, um, you have some really tremendous allies on your side through this process. And the first is the Ace of Vessels. And what I love about this, look what's over there by the rocks. It's your little swan. She's swimming happy in here. Ace of Vessels, the waters of life. Um, how do we get there? So this is obviously like a very spiritual, even though it's emotional with the vessels, it it being something we can drink from. It's something that fills us up spiritually. So however you connect to spirit, to the universe, to God, whatever the name is that you identify them as, find some practices and traditions that work for you. Okay. For me, I like daily meditation. I like yoga for breath and moving my body and connecting on that deeper level. I like prayer, and sometimes I'll take a walk and just let my thoughts become prayers. Um, for you, it might really be like a church practice or um, a weekly gathering of people who have dinner and talk about spiritual things. It looks different for everyone. Um, the prayer labyrinth that comes out of it comes out of the contemplative Christian tradition. And contemplatives have a lot to offer in terms of spiritual practice. That's really their strong suit. And contemplatives tend to be the Catholic tradition, but more so on the monk and nun side. Um, Again, that's such a tricky world that I say take what works and leave behind what doesn't. Because again, it's all man made. So you might find that you have something calling to you that nobody's ever shown you, but it's something you like to do to connect with spirit. Do it, okay? All traditions are man made in the end. So if you create something for yourself and you really enjoy that, then by all means, like, make use of it. I think spirit is very creative and likes to remind us of how creative we are by giving us, ideas and allowing us to run with them. Another ally is the Ten of Vessels, which is it says happiness. You see how like that water is just overflowing, filling all the little vessels there on the rocks. Okay, happiness. Don't be afraid of it. If you have it in your life, capture it. Actually, there's a poem I want to read you. Let me see if I can find it. I have a picture of it. Okay, I think it's in here. It says screenshot. Sorry, this is going to take me a minute. No, know I have it because I was cleaning out my photos and found it, and then I shared it with someone. Oh, I know who I shared it with. Maybe he has it. Sorry, I could push pause, but sometimes when these things come up and I feel like this really needs to happen, like um I'll take a little time out and make sure that I share it because I just sense usually that there's a reason, um and yeah, it could very easily not be here at all, and then we're all just stuck. Why is this happening? Stop. Doesn't like me going back so far in my text messages. Nope. Maybe I didn't share it with this person. Okay. See if I can Google it real quick. Side note, it's kind of funny going back through messages and like seeing all the things you talk about with somebody. Like, kind of funny. Okay, I'm gonna Google it real quick, and then if that doesn't work, it doesn't work. Okay. Here's what I'm gonna do. Sorry for that. I'm gonna send you that poem along with your reading after I find it, so that I don't waste any more time. Come back. That's gonna go with this card. Okay. I know there's nothing else I need to share with that, so I'm gonna share the poem and let that speak. And then there's the Eight of Vessels, which is rebirth. And this is a process that you're in. And here's what I love about this. It goes, you see the top, there's like a vessel that fills this vessel, that fills these vessels, that then fills this vessel. And it's important to remember that we pour into each other. And so even in the same time that I was like, be discerning about who speaks into your life, That doesn't mean that you reject people pouring into you. Um, like love, especially. Um, Allowing people to love you through this period is going to be really important. And um, it's just a resting, like resting into the love. Okay. It's not something you have to go and seek. It is already there. It is already working to fill your cup. So, um, so submit to that. Just allow it to happen. And this can also be part of, with the waters of life, finding that, um, hmm. Okay, so what I'm getting is the flow is spirit flows into you, you flow into yourself, and others flow into you. And then as that overflows, it pours into the world. So spirit and you are equally pouring into you, if that makes sense. That seems kind of strange, but it's a balance, it's a mix. And so don't outsource that work. Okay. Allow it to come in, but don't outsource it to where you're then not giving it to yourself as well. It's important for you to pour into yourself. And especially during a time of rebirth, think about like the idea of rebirth. I mean, it's literally death and then birth again. So it's exhausting. It's exhausting. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of time. Allow that to be, okay? And I'm speaking from experience right now. It is incredibly hard and frustrating to be still. Incredibly hard and frustrating. So I get it. You're in good company. And yeah. Last card here, which it's actually technically in the resolution slot, but I'm sensing it's actually another ally. It's the Page of Stones, which is the Lynx. And very powerful, very decisive cat. Kind of able to hide out in unseen places. Basically, it's not seen unless it wants to be. I'm going to look this guy up because I'm not getting anything immediate. Okay, it says pay attention to the physical realm and be aware of the effects generated by everything you do. A strain of wildness and lack of forethought can sometimes hamper your forward passage, but careful consideration redresses the balance. Questions. What data do you need to make a good decision? What can you learn from this situation? What needs your dedicated commitment? Okay. So really feel like the links kind of brought those things to you. I would recommend rewinding, writing them down, spend some time in solitude answering them, meditating on the answers, on the questions, etc. And then I'm supposed to draw 2 more cards for you. So I'm going to do that. And they are 5 of Arrows, Frustration, and number 20 in the Major Arcana, the Great Bear. So, the Great Bear he kind of stands guard at the entrance to the other world, which is like the spiritual realm here. A bit of a foreboding character, and the reason for that is he doesn't stand for a lot of bullshit. So he is really, or imposters, like he's really there to keep the other world pure and clear. And essentially he's here for you to help serve as that guardian as well. So as you're venturing into a lot of really deep emotional stuff and you're connecting with your spiritual self, just know that this energy of the great bear surrounds you and is ever on your side. And if it appears scary to you, then there's probably some inauthenticity within you. So I would really highly recommend exploring that, figuring out what the inauthenticity is, where you're out of integrity, and just lovingly bringing it back into place. So if you think about something that's out of alignment, with itself, um, I would use the idea of a chiropractor, but that doesn't always seem as gentle as actually I'm recommending it to be. Um, but if you can imagine, you find that place that's out of alignment and you just kind of gently bring it back into place. And the only way to do that is with love and compassion. So heaps and heaps of love and compassion on yourself. Even if you need to tell yourself, I didn't know better. I just didn't know. I was young. I had this unresolved trauma. Like I had this issue. I had a child. I was trying to work full time and go to school. Like really work to give yourself the benefit of the doubt, as if you were your best friend and you didn't want yourself to feel like you were a failure or a problem at any point. Frustration is going to come. Just like I mentioned, it's hard to be still. Keep in mind, though, that look, this archer is aiming for the mountain goat, and all of the arrows are going awry. So, even though you may feel like the aim is on you, especially this chick, man, she really feels it. The reality is you are going to be able to make it through this without anything damaging you. And trust and connection and love and compassion, all of that is going to be a big part of that game if you want to, in fact, move forward. So we are at the conclusion of this. I'm going to send that poem over for you to reflect on. And if you have any questions or concerns, of course, please feel free to message me. But I hope this served you well. I'm still offering $5 referrals. So if you share with someone and they decide to get a reading, I will give you a $5 credit for your next reading. So many blessings to you. Thank you for letting me share. Namaste.